Welcome to this episode of our program, Daily Debate. Tomorrow would be the first day of Ramadan, so on behalf of all of us, we wish all the Muslim world and all the Muslims around the globe a happy Ramadan Kareem for everyone. Starting with our discussion tonight, and tonight we'll be shedding light on the significant visit of the Tunisian president to Egypt. The Tunisian president Qais Said was here in Egypt after an invitation by President Abdel Fattah Sisi, where he held summit talks with President Sisi, reflecting the very distinguished relations between both countries and the will to upgrade those relations into another broader horizon of cooperation and relations in all fields. Both leaders agreed that this could be achieved by activating cooperation frameworks and mechanisms of consultation and coordination at all levels. And definitely this Egyptian-Tunisian summit also discussed the common challenges that are facing the Arab world and both countries, the continental and the regional one, as well as issues of international issues of mutual concerns, including confronting foreign interference, combating terrorism, and extremism ideology. President Sisi stressed that the recent visit of the Tunisian president to Egypt has underlined the deep-rooted and strong ties between both countries, and in a tweet on his social media pages, President Sisi said he was keen to see Said off at Cairo International Airport as the Tunisian leader left yesterday or on Sunday after his 3 days formal visit. Tonight we'll be shedding light on this very significant visit. We'll be also speaking about the horizons of cooperation between both countries. Before we delve into our discussion, we have the top story of today, and President Abdel Fattah Sisi met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Cairo on Monday. The Russian Foreign Minister, who is on a tour of the Middle East, then met with Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. Lavrov said that Moscow is convinced that there is a resolution to the Jud crisis that guarantees the legitimate rights of the three countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia. He added that Russia supports negotiations between Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia under the auspices of the African Union as the way to reach a resolution to the Jud dispute. In a press conference with the top diplomat, or our top diplomat, after the talks, Lavrov said that other foreign parties have a role to play in the resolution of the Jud dispute by creating a better climate for the talks. On his part, Shoukry said that Egypt believes that Russia has the ability through its bilateral relations with the various parties to the Jud dispute to press on all the sides the need to reach a resolution. Shoukry added that Egypt relied on the African path of negotiations and went to the UN last year, but this path has proven ineffective due to the Ethiopian unilateral acts and in transitions. Shoukry also said that Egypt welcomes any Russian involvement to help push forward the stalled talks. He reiterated the unilateral act taken by the Ethiopian side and its intransitions has thwarted the negotiations on the Jud for a decade, including the African Union-sponsored talks. On this issue, we have with us over the phone to discuss this important visit of the Russian Foreign Minister to Egypt. We have with us over the phone Ambassador Mohamed Hegazy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening to you, sir. Ambassador Hegazy.
Yes, Mona, I can hear you.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us, and Ramadan Kareem for you and your beloved family.
Thank you, and for you and the telespectators.
Thank you so much. So we're speaking about this very timing visit by the Russian Foreign Minister to Egypt, part of his visit to the Middle East.
Yes.
First, let me take
Please.
your reading here to this visit.
Thank you very much, Mona. Yes, a very important and timely visit when Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan are facing trouble in the Renaissance Dam negotiation. An intervention of a country with the size of Russia, a permanent member of the Security Council, will definitely help easing the situation, and they will definitely participate in carrying the responsibility of safeguarding peace and security in the region, a matter that is threatened by the Ethiopian position, which was really averting all possibilities to reach out an agreement and to agree over 10 years. Ethiopia has followed a pattern of rigidness that did not lead us to find any solution, rejecting all initiatives. And I'm sure that the visit of Lavrov might add value to the stance of the international community vis-a-vis the deadlock of the negotiation. The visit has also many goals, discussing regional issues, particularly Sergei Lavrov was in the Gulf states touring the area a month ago, so he has to say a lot about the Iranian new resumption of negotiation with the West, and he will definitely express the fears and worries of the Gulf states that has been expressed because of opening with Iran without calming the worries and fears of the Gulf states is going on. The second most important, I think, is the situation in Libya, and Russia and Egypt have expressed their full support to the transition and the drive towards the democratic election suggested for the 24th of December. Both countries will work with the Libyan mechanisms and institutions along with the United Nations to settle the situation and to evict Libya from all mercenaries and terrorist groups, and of course stands against regional interventions that can derail the drive towards the peace.
Right.
The most important issue that is always on the agenda is the Palestinian issue, where there is a Russian proposition to revive the role of the quartet, the international quartet, Russia, U.S., United Nations, and the European Union. This revival might give an opportunity, a new opportunity to the peace drive, where Arab and the Israelis should sit and discuss. Palestinian should look into their hopes and dreams, with also a new American administration that has shown some or more understanding towards the Palestinians than the previous one. The situation in Syria remains always one of the most important and commonly discussed issues, where I think the support of both countries to the UN Security Council Resolution 2254 is always there, and I'm sure that settling the situation between the opposition, the non-armed opposition, and the Syrian government will open the way forward toward a more democratic, more open political political solution in Syria. The last is the bilateral ties between Russia and Egypt, where Egypt and Russia is enjoying now the comprehensive strategic agreement of 2018, which came into force lately by the endorsement of the Egyptian parliament, a framework that will open up many gates for our cooperation. The most important also factor is that our relations with Russia is now engaged in many strategic projects, namely the nuclear civil use reactor in Al-Daba, the Russian industrial zone in the Suez Canal economic zone, as well as the participation of Russia in rehabilitating the railways in Egypt. This is among many other Russian-Egyptian framework of cooperation and projects, which will definitely render the relations to where it belongs as strategic relations based on principles of cordiality that exists also not only between our two countries but with our two people and our two leadership who met many times and who have supported and safeguarded the well-being of these relations over the years.
This is a wrap-up of this whole visit and the whole press conference that was held today. Ambassador Hegazy, if we speak about it a little bit specifically, because yes, as you said, indeed, the talks tackled several issues. Top of them was the Jud issue. Then the Libyan issue, then definitely the Palestinian cause, the Libyan issue, the Syrian one, and bilateral cooperation. Let me here take your reading to the issue that the Russian foreign minister spoke about, which is that Russia sees an opportunity, or that there is a resolution to the Jud crisis that guarantee the legitimate rights of the three countries. How do you read such a statement?
That the Egyptian point of view is identical to the Russian point of view. There is always a solution that will safeguard the development in Ethiopia and will help Ethiopia attain all its developmental goals. And Egypt was never against this development. To the contrary, Egypt is an integral part of Ethiopia development. We trade, we invest, and we are working together to the well-being of the Ethiopian people. And I'm sure that if we open up the gate for cooperation, we can link the power grid, we can coordinate the work of the dams over the Nile between Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. We can open up roads and railways like we are doing with Sudan, so a landlocked country like Ethiopia can look to our ports in the Mediterranean and use them. So cooperation will open up gates of cooperation and will open up projects for the three countries. I give one example in the Mekong Basin in Southeast Asia. There is a scheme of cooperation because of the Mekong River and for the Iberian countries. They're of a value of $50 billion US. So this is how cooperation can really create new lives. So if Sergei Lavrov was saying that there is always a solution that will safeguard the interest of the three countries, he is right. There is many solutions technically that can allow the grid to produce its electricity, to generate its electricity, and for Egypt to safeguard its water share, which is the only river that is crossing my country in comparison to 12 other rivers crossing Ethiopia, a plateau that is receiving 965 billion cubic meters. So what is the 55 billion cubic meter will do to this huge rainfall that comes on the Ethiopian plateau every year?
Ambassador
so what
Hegazy,
is said, yes, please.
It's not about water, because we are all aware that Ethiopia doesn't need this water, and it doesn't need the Nile. It is filled with rain resources and water resources in enormous quantities. So let me here read how did you how did you read the statements by our foreign minister yesterday to one of the channels?
Yes.
Yes.
Mona, yes, Minister Shukri said definitely unilateral acts will create a massive reaction. And he used really a word that says that the efforts of Egypt to reach out to Ethiopia for almost 10 years now is coming to an end. And if the solution is not helped, if the way forward is not envisaged, then we will be all facing a very challenging moment where a reaction might not be easy. And I'm sure that this is very well understood. According to international law, if your national security is threatened, you are free to use all methods that will guarantee this national security. And I'm sure that Egypt, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi put it very clear, is open to all options, but cooperation is
the best choice.
Preferable. This is exactly what the President has said, that all options, yes, are open, but we prefer cooperation. So I hope that Ethiopia will understand that attaining their goals on an international river needs to understand the other rights of the riparian countries, particularly in the downstreams, where there is no other source of water but the Nile. So if Ethiopia do come to understand that their needs does not contradict with the Egyptian and Sudanese interests, then we can harmonize the management of our water resources, because this is a shared international river. You cannot really cartel or work on your own in ignorance of the interest of the others. So we work together to harmonize our dams over the Nile in Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt. So water can be one of many faceted approach to development, where we can link our power grids, where we can link our ports, link our roads and our railways, and then trade and investment will prevail in the region instead of rivalry and irritation because of water, where water will become part of many aspects of cooperation. What I wanted to say, Mona, is that water is a God-given substance that has to be safeguarded to the benefit of its people, not to be used by one party against the interest of other party. This is the commonality that we have learned and built up to understand other interests in Africa. We have to work together to the benefit of us all. I think this is attainable if the Ethiopian were in this negotiation with good intention then since the start. But they came with bad intention. They didn't want to reach an agreement, and over and above, they don't have a seal. They don't show the negotiation interest. They don't express what they want. Of course, if they want to commit themselves to a legally binding agreement, that will be to their benefit. But they have plans to further curtail your water, and that's why they don't want to sign a legally binding agreement. However, we say that even if we started with the grid agreement, then we can move further to discuss other projects, but not at this moment where we all bind by the filling and regulation and management of the power grid in the grid installation. This is the key to the future. Let us settle with this legally binding agreement, and then after that we can discuss further issues. Otherwise, Ethiopia will remain the irritating factor because of its rigid situation and unattainable negotiating position.
Yes, finally here, if I may ask you just to close this issue. Few days ago, there were negotiations between the Egyptian, the Sudanese, and the Ethiopian sides, and Ethiopia offered to exchange
information.
Exactly. The Egyptian side said that was not convenient. So, can you explain the issue here?
Well, Mona, this is very simple. You can exchange information on rules that you have agreed upon. But if you didn't agree on the rules of filling and the time frame or the hydrological status of the flood or of the river Nile, seasonal river Nile flooding, then you cannot exchange information unless you know exactly what are the bases according to which you are exchanging this information. This is one. Number two, and most important, that any exchange of information should be bound and attached to as annex to a legally binding document. Otherwise, you today give me information, day after you may not. And if it is a drought or a long-term drought, then what will happen? Then all that has to be agreed upon, exchange of information, or then a context and attachment of a legally binding document. This is how we negotiate water, and this is how a legally binding agreement contain annexes of exchange of information based on the rules that is stipulated or that are stipulated in the articles of the legally binding agreement. Then the information comes to prove that you are following the rules that you have created in your binding document. Otherwise, this exchange of information can be temporary, can be mismanaged, can be given at the grace of the given country. And this is not a case, and this is not a substance that you can tolerate, and this is not a situation where you can just accept any given information without rules, without binding agreement.
Right. This is for people who negotiate life prior to interests. Ambassador Mohamed Hegazy, we thank you so much for being with us over the phone. Ambassador Mohamed Hegazy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Turning to our next top story of the day, and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi received on Monday a phone call from Emir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, in which he congratulated the President on the occasion of the holy month of Ramadan. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi said in a statement that President Sisi expressed during the call his thanks to the Emir of Qatar for his greeting, praying to Allah Almighty to bless this occasion for the peoples of the two brotherly countries and all Arab and Islamic peoples with welfare, prosperity, and blessings. Yes, the President also received several phone calls from Arab leaders, including the Algerian President and the Bahraini Emir. And before we continue on with our discussion, let's first take the first report. And President Sisi, Egyptian-Tunisian discussions reflect common will to strengthen distinguished cooperation. Let's watch.